Yeah. Simple repair.
Baruchim Abayim B'Shem Irgin Shir Torah. We'd like to welcome everyone to today's shir from Rav Zev Smith Shlita on Issa Tikkun Mana B'Shabbos V'Yontif. When is a simple repair Chil Shabbos? To have the great Tzchus sponsor a shir, call Irgin Shir Torah 718-851-8651.
Someone asked me a while ago, his grandchild asked him to blow up a balloon. And this Zayda was not sure if it was mutter on Shabbos. And he wanted to know, is it taka mutter to blow up a balloon? And we'll soon see any inflatable ball or item. We had a shayla with someone's shoelace tore, mamish this past Shabbos. He wanted to put in a new shoelace. He heard there's a problem. There's a problem, not a problem. We'll talk today about toiveling an item or constructing, putting together a disposable dessert cup where two pieces, putting it together. We'll talk about floating wicks. We'll even have an Erev Pesach Chal B'Shabbos question. But I think we'll see really the nitzchias of our Torah, because there's a whole long list of questions that are really based on one Gemara that we might think is outdated, not Negeya. But obviously every Var Torah is nitzchias. So we have to learn a particular Gemara that defines for us clearly the Issa of Tikkun Mana, of making or repairing an item. And then hopefully we'll be able to apply it to the many, many shaylas. The Gemara says in Shabbos Daf Mem Ches the following: Rav Chizda Sharil Adurei Udru Levei Sajer. Rashi explains, the olden days they had pillows that they put various muchin. Muchin is really soft item, soft material. It could be feathers, it could be pieces of wool or material. But Bekitza, you're taking stuffing, we'll call it, and putting it into a pillowcase. So Rav Chizda says, if you made the pillow before Shabbos, but on Shabbos some of the stuffing, some of the feathers came out, and we're assuming it's not muktzah, you're allowed to pick up the stuffing and put it back into the pillow. And the Gemara has a problem with that. Why are you allowed to do that? L'chari, you're making a pillow. And the Gemara compares this, interestingly enough, to a famous Gemara in Makkis Daf Gimel Amid Beis. If you have a talus cotton, you want to wear it, there's one problem. There's no hole to put your head through. They forgot to make the hole. So a Pesach Beis Atzava B'Shabbos, says the Gemara in Makkis Daf Gimel, it's also here in Memches, Chayev Chatas. Zok Rashi, why you Chayev Chatas? The Kamashvi Leimana. Because you're making a functional pair of tzitzis. So here also, why is it mutter to put back the stuffing? You're making a pillow. But I want to make a point before we go weiter, once and for all. The Gemara is talking about Shabbos and Yom Tiv. Whatever we're saying today, we're going to talk about Shabbos because Diva Kasa B'Hoiva, it's mostly Shabbos. But the same halachas apply to Yom Tiv. In other words, it's not only the 52 Shabbos in the year, but it's the 12 days of Yom Tiv. Tikkun Mana applies to Yom Tiv like Shabbos. You're allowed to cook on Yom Tiv, you're allowed to carry on Yom Tiv, but you're not allowed to make Tikkun Mana. So the question is, getting back, if you're not allowed to cut out a talus cotton hole, why can you put the feathers in the pillow? You're making a pillow. So the Gemara says that the chiluk is pashit. Avada, you're not allowed to make a pillow on Shabbos or Yom Tov. You're not allowed to take stuffing and put it into a pillowcase. We're talking about before Shabbos or before Yom Tov, the pillow was made. Just it came out. Zok the Gemara, and the basic klal is, b'chadati, making a new pillow, avad is asa, and an issa deraisa of tikkun mana. The hashta of leimana, says Rashi. But let's say the pillow was made before Shabbos, you're just putting back some of the pillows some of the stuffing, some of the feathers that fell out. You can't say hashta ovid leimana, it was made. And then the Gemara spells it out. Tanya nami hachi ein noisin es semuchin leloyotecha karv leloyotecha keses b'yomtiv Ve'ein tzarech lo'im b'Shabbos. You can't make a pillow on Shabbos or Yom Tiv. Nashru, if it came out, machzirin oisa, you're allowed to put it back. Now, here we see the accurate definition of tikkun mona. We have two examples: making a pillow or making a talis cotton. Both of them, you're making a functional keli. Now, the big question is, I understand, you can't make a keli on Yom Tiv. But what's the chiluk if it was made before Yom Tiv? If the feather fell out and you're putting it back, so you're still making a pillow. What's the difference? It was there before Shabbos. So the teretz has to be, and this is a big yesod, you can't create a keli. But here, the pillow was created before Shabbos. So what are you doing? I'm taking a feather, I'm putting it back. I'm not creating, I'm just reinstating. Now, it's not just a poetic expression. If you make a new keli, it's awesome. If you put feathers back to an existing keli that was a keli, that's just putting it back. It's not broken. If it's not broken, you can't fix it. So this is basically the yesod of tikkun mona. You're making a keli. Now let me just give you another unbelievable example of tikkun mona. The Gemara says new on Shabbos or Yom Tov, a new item on Shabbos or Yom Tov is awesome. Now we understand new means to make a new pillow. But there are shittas that say if you see a feather on the floor that was not on the pillow, you pick it up on Shabbos. Now, l'maisa that's probably muktzah, but let's say it's not muktzah, whatever reason. And you take a new feather and put it into the pillowcase, that also might be tikkun mona. Why is tikkun mona? The pillow was made, so guess what? You know why it's tikkun mona on? The feather. Till now it was an innocent, functionless feather. Now it becomes part of the pillow. So the tikkun mona is going on the pillow and maybe even on the feather. And we'll soon use that bit of information. But be that as it may, we have Shulchan Aruch Shin Mem Siv Ches Muchin Shenafnu Min HaKeses. If stuffing fell out of the pillow, mutal achziroi. But of course, you can't make a pillow on Shabbos or Yom Tiv. And this is also in Shin Yud Zayin Gimel. If you have a talis cotton that the whole head was not punched out, you're not allowed to do it on Shabbos or Yom Tiv. Okay. Now, there's an important factor to this Yesod that's based on a Yishalmi in Shabbos Tezvav Beis and a Tosefta Yud Gimel Yudalid. I'll read the Lashon of the Yishalmi, but it's come out the same Lashon Tosefta. Nishmetu Ritzues Minal V'Sandal. If you had a fully functional shoe and the laces fell out, Noita Umachzira. Ubavad Shelo Yiksh. You're allowed to put back lace that fell out of a shoe. Of course, you can't make a knot. That's the Yisuf Kaisha. Now, in the olden days, shoes without laces were not wearable. So the question is, why is it mutter to put back the lace into the shoes? Right now, it's dysfunctional. And the Mechaber Paskin, the Shin Yud Zayin, Yud Beis, you're allowed to put back the laces like the Yishalmi and Tosefta. The teretz, of course, is very pashit. Before Shabbos, it was shoes. Now, it fell out. You don't have to do much. You don't have to fix it in a literal sense. You don't have to repair it. You don't have to glue it. You don't have to sew it. It's just hanacha ba'alma, putting it in. If all you're missing is placing it in a simple way, then that's the biggest raya. It's not broken. And to quote the old term, if it's not broken, you can't fix it. If it's not broken, there's no tikkun. So if you buy new shoes and you forgot the lace is before Shabbos, says the Magen Avram in Sif Katan Zayin, Shin Yud Zayin, Sif Katan Zayin, that is tikkun mona deraisa. Because the shoes are not functional, they never were shoes, and by putting in the laces, you're making shoes. But let's say the shoes were made before Shabbos or Yom Tiv, they fell out, so easy come, easy go, or easy go, easy come, you could put it back, it's not tikkun. That's basically a Tosefta and a Yishalmi. Comes again the Mordechai in Masechta Shabbos Shin Pei Zayin and adds an important factor. Let's say it is difficult to get the shoe laces back into the shoe. Now today we live in a more user-friendly world, but when we were growing up, you had laces that after a while they just started widening, and you have to get them back into the hole, which was tiny, and it was mamish an ordeal. How do you get a thick lace into a thin hole? Today they have plastic-tipped laces and plastic-tipped holes, big holes, so it's easy. But in those days, it was a struggle. Zokt the Mordechai, that if it's a tircha to get it in, it's also to do on Shabbos, even if it was there before Shabbos. And this is, we'll soon see, get paskin and Shulchan Aruch. The question is, what changed? Before Shabbos it was made, before Shabbos the shoe. It fell out, so you put it back. Oh, now it's Masik Bidvash. If it was made before Shabbos and merely you're just replacing it, so you're not doing anything. It's not broken, you're not fixing it. But let's say there's a big tircha to replace it, and that's the pshat of the Magen Avram, Sif Kat and Tes, and the Taz says it's Beferish, the Rav, the Mishnah all explain this. If it needs tircha to get it back, then that's the biggest raya, then it's broken. If it's broken, you could fix it. So when did the Rishalmi Tosefta say is mutter? When you're sliding it in, so it's not broken. But if there's a tircha to get it back, that's a raya that it's broken, and therefore if it's broken, you're fixing it. The Rosh in Shabbos Perik Dalet Sif Hey, Siman Hey, adds another factor which is very pashut, and he says besides the problem of tircha, if when you finally get the lace into the shoe, you will impulsively make a knot to make sure it doesn't happen again, then that's also to do on Shabbos even if you don't make a knot. Why? You might make a knot. Making a knot, don't forget, b'roish chevel, a knot on the top of a string, even a single knot, is malacha deraisa because it stays. So how does the Rosh have the authority to make an egg in a gezeira? So he compares it to Shema Yiska. The Gemara says you're not allowed to put something in loosely, you might tighten it. Here you put something in, you might make a knot. Now Tosfos in our sugi, the end of Daf Memches, mentions briefly these chashashas ayin sham, and that's the sugya that we need. That a shoe that had a lace before Shabbos and it fell out and it's easy to repair, you could put it back. And the assumption is if it's easy to repair, you're not going to make a knot. But if it is hard to get back, then there's an issa of makabah patish, because if it's hard, then it's broken, and there's also a chashash you might make a knot. But all agree that if you have a shoe bought before Shabbos and you never put the laces in, putting the laces is a malacha deraisa. It's no big deal. It's plastic tip laces, and the shoe has nice holes. The answer is, this is a more serious problem. Hashta ovid leimona. Because this shoe was never created. So it's not because of the tircha or because of the kshema yiksha. It is a bona fide tikkun keli. The shoe was never made. Now let's apply this, and I think we'll have a delight to see how a Torah is a Torah is nitzchi to all of our shaylos of this Gemara. Let's start with the following shayla. A person had a shoe, obviously with laces, and it tore on Shabbos. Now he can't wear the shoes. Can he go to his weekday shoes and take out the shoelaces and put them into his Shabbos shoes? And I'm talking about it's easy, it goes in easy, no chashash shema yikshar. In other words, take from a different shoe and put it into my shoes on Shabbos. Question number one. But let's be more aggressive, because he's a Shabbos tikiyid, he doesn't want to wear his weekday laces on the Shabbos shoes. He takes new pair of shoelaces and puts it into his regular Shabbos shoes. So you're wondering again, what's the shayla? Didn't we say that it's asa? Oh wait, this is very different. These are old shoes. I mean, not old necessarily, but these shoes that were made before Shabbos. They tore on Shabbos. Okay, so maybe you're allowed to put in because it was made before Shabbos. Or maybe we'll say, wait a second. You're putting in some other laces that was not there before Shabbos. You're putting in different laces. So this is a question that obviously has a very big nafkamina. But one thing I'll tell you, there's no problem of taking a new lace al tikkun of the lace, like tikkun of the muchin, because the lace was already made. It's a fully functional lace. The question is a tikkun mana on the shoe? We could say, since this shoe was made before Shabbos, it was a shoe. You can't say avad leimana. Or maybe this combination, old shoe and a different lace or a new lace, is a new creation. And if you say that, Baruch Shekivanta, to the sheet of the El Yerabah Sifkot and Zayin, mashmali, even an old shoe, to put in a different lace, he says, a new lace, a Meshicha Chodosh, a new lace is asa. The Mikri Mesakin Mana. Now, the Mishnah Berurah quotes this Lashon Sifkot and Yudches. He calls it the Mikri Mesakin Mana. What's the pshat in the El Yerabah? It's Masik Midvash. You look at this shoe, it looks like a new shoe. I don't recognize that lace. I'm making a new shoe. Now, the emes is the El Yerabah calls it Mikri Meshicha Chadasha, but it's no doubt about it. He's talking even if you use an old lace. Because for this shoe, it's a new lace. So the El Yerabah basically addresses both of our shaylas. If the shoe ripped on Shabbos, you can't take a new shoelace or even an old shoelace. The Reb Shulchan Shloim, Reb Shloim Bazalm, Sifkat and Ches, the Chutshani, Lamadal, Yud Gimel, and many other poskim say this. So a very nice tshuva, the Mishnah Halachas, Chelik Zayin, Simon Memtes, he points out, if you look at the Lashon of the El Yerabah, you can't put in a Meshicha Chodosh, Shloi Hoye Kfar Sham, that it wasn't there. Now what do you have to say, Shloi Kfar Sham? If it's new, of course it wasn't there. The teretz is Chodosh means new to this shoe. Like you bought a new car. Oh really, it's new? Well, it's pre-owned. New for me, right? Okay, that's true. It's new for this shoe. So the El Yerabah basically is saying both of our shaylis are malach of Mesakin Mana. You're making this new combination of shoe. The only heta is this shoelace from this shoe with this shoe. The Oznidbru and Chelik Zayin Mem Aleph points to a ritva on Masechta Shabbos. Lav charati mamish el shli omdam b'seich karze. He's saying regarding muchin, if it was never in this pillow, that's Mesakin Mana, this combination. It's chadasha loy. And that's the truth, as I said, besides the El Yerabah, the Mishnah Berurah quotes this, the Shlomo Zalman and Shmir HaShabbos, Rav Nissen Karelitz and Chut Hashani, all say the only heta is to replace the shoelace from the shoe into the same shoe, like the feathers from the same pillow. Now the emes is the K'tzais HaShulchan and Kuf Mem Vav Sif Cotton Bays. He says, but why does the Magen Avram stress Min El Chadash, a new shoe is awesome? Why did it say an old shoe with a new shoelace? So he wants to say, like we said originally, the only issa is when you bought new shoes before Shabbos, you never made the shoes, you never laced the shoes, that's awesome. But once there was a shoe before Shabbos, then even new shoelaces or shoelace from a different shoe is mutter. The only issa is when the shoe was never functioning before Shabbos. That's what he wants to say. But he adds, I'm allowed to take even a new shoelace. Now he asks on himself, listen to this, you'll enjoy. A new feather, new muchon, you can't put into a pillow on Shabbos? Because that's pashit. Because the new feather was never part of a keli, never part of anything. But a shoelace you bought in the store, although it's new, but it's still a keli, it's a functional shoelace. This is his shita. The Shmir Shabbos quotes an earlier sefer told the Shmuel that passing like this, and so does the Shaga Meir and Meir Chelik Ches Simon Kuf Chav Dalet. However, the fact that the Mishnah Berurah and I saw the Oznidbru and Chelik Gimel Amar Aleph, he says it's hard to argue on an El Yerabah by somebody that's a suffix Issa Skila. So that's certainly the way we're going to have to go. Especially the Poskim do go with the El Yerabah, the Loikit Shulchan, that the only heta of Atiki of old means an old shoelace, old shoe of the same. Feathers from the pillow. But you make a new shidduch, that would be awesome. But we also see a better definition of tikkun mana. Tikkun mana means you're creating a new combination. So even though you'll say, I'm old shoelace, old shoe, end of the day, it's a new creation. The only het is putting back the shoelace to the shoe, feathers to that pill that was in before Shabbos. Now the shaila is, what do you do with the fellow that has a torn shoelace, he can't wear his shoes? So l'chayr we have a very simple eitzah. The klal is, tikkun mana is, if it's broken, you're fixing it. But we could also say, if it's not fixed, you can't fix it. Says the Ktsois HaShulchan, the end of that shtickle, where he's arguing on the El Rabbah, he says, but I have an idea, even for the El Rabbah's chumrah, and that is, go to your daughter or whatever, granddaughter's sneakers, take out her red shoelaces, and put them into your shoes. He says yellow or green, but I guess it's more common red. Take an exotic color and put them into your shoes. Zok Ktsois HaShulchan, since you will definitely not keep it a minute after Shabbos, because then you could get normal shoelaces, that is not fixed. If it's not fixed, you can't fix it. That's what he wants to say. And we'll soon see his raya from the heta of putting a belt into pants. We'll soon see the beauty of that raya. But basically, the heta is, if it's not fixed, you can't fix it. Push it. Now, the emphasis is the eitzah is too good because it's so outlandish, you won't keep it, but you won't do it either. So there's another eitzah I saw, the Shmir HaShabbos and Tezvav Samach Dalet. It's going with the same concept, but it's a little more practical. Typically, a shoe has 4 or 5 rows of holes. So he says, take a shoelace, and you could even use a new shoelace, in fact, and put it only in the upper 2 holes further out. What's the mile of that? You could tighten it. It will hold to get the shoe. Why is that mutter? Because you're not going to leave it after Shabbos. You can't wear a shoe that the laces are on the top of it. You can't pull it. You can't tie it. So basically what he's saying is, if it's not fixed, you can't fix it, or you're not fixing it. Kipshute. Now, of course, you have to do it right. If you lace the bottom 2 rows of holes, and after Shabbos you're going to add the other ones, then you're not undoing it, so you didn't gain. You have to do something that you can undo the whole thing on after Shabbos, so if it's not fixed, you're not fixing it. That's the second eitzah. Now, what would you say to the following eitzah? You'll go to your next door neighbor and say, I need a pair of shoelaces, and I'll give it back to you right after Shabbos. You don't have to have outlandish colors, you don't have to do 2 out of 4. The Vaita, you can't keep it. This I saw, the Rivais Ephraim, Chelik Aleph, Simon Reish Mem Gimel says it's eitzah. But the truth is, it's not so pashit, because why do you have to take red shoelaces or borrow shoelaces? Why don't you put in normal new shoelaces and make a Tanai here in a Muchan and Mazuman? I'm taking it out right after Shabbos. The teretz is, if bechefza it could last, it's a tikkun. Your das doesn't undo a ma'aseh gama. So you go to the neighbor, can I borrow your shoelaces? He says, sure, you keep it. No, I'm giving back right after Shabbos. So it's weiter your das that's being mafkir from a ma'aseh. So what do you have to borrow? Take your own. If he says, I need it back right after Shabbos, I'm giving you a Tanai kafel and mechuppah, I need it back after Shabbos, no, hechrashti. But to make a Tanai on your own Tanai, so you might as well use your own and take it out. So I'm not so convinced that's an eitzah. The emes is, the Ber Moshe and Chelik Beis, Simon Chaf, it's also the B'yoim and Chelik Tes, Kuf Ches, Ois Kuf Samach Beis. They say maybe a different heta is that maybe today's shoes, if they're wearable without laces, it's not broken without laces. And if it's not broken without laces, you could be a sport and put in new, normal shoelaces and keep it. The problem is, Zalman and Shmir HaShabbos and in our Perek Tezvav, or Reish Aleph, the Achronim don't say this. It's hard to believe that throughout the Deiris, the shoes were unwearable without laces. But I saw a very geschmacke husband, the Sefer Binyan Shabbos, Omid Kuf Nun Hey. He says, Tikkun Mona Makaba Patish, Lav Dafki is Yesh Me'ayin, a new creation. If you tzar tzura b'keli, you chayvas Makaba Patish. The keli is wearable, is usable without that picture. The teretz is finishing touches means you're adding a haisafa chashuva. So even if your shoes are wearable without laces, but it's certainly much more gishmak to have laces. I mean, you're not, it's not very typical to walk without laces. So vivayit, it's an haisafa chashuva, even if it's wearable b'shas adchak, it would be makeh b'patish. So that's why Lamaisa, I know some say today's shoes are different, but it's certainly not enough of a svara to be matir on a suffix issa derais. Ma'isa shahaya, someone washed his child's shoelaces. Today the kids get them dirty. He forgot to put them back before Shabbos. Can he put laces into the shoes on Shabbos? So what's the shaila? It has alamailis. It's the same laces in the same shoes. They're both old. So he thought that since the Tesef Yishalmi will have a lashon of nishvatu, means it fell out. But if I took it out, and when Shabbos came, it was out, so maybe what? I asked him, maybe what? In Hilchas Muktzah you could say, Iskatzoy lebein hashmoshes, but it's not a din in Iskatzoy lebein hashmoshes. So I saw Taki that Oz Nidbru and Chelik Zayin Mem Aleph says Nishbentu is lav dafka. The ik was it once a shoe? It was a shoe. You're putting back an existing shoe, it's the same shoe, there's no shaila. Today they have these different type of raincoats with a very convenient hood, covers over your hat, and there's a string that you tighten the hood. Now if you ever had the experience, if the string comes out, it's quite an ordeal to get it back. You need a lot of siyata d'shmaya. Or you have a windbreaker that has a string that goes through the hood, the lower part of the hood, and it tightens it. To do that on Shabbos, you have two problems. It's the same string in the same hood. First of all, it's a tircha yisera, and when you finally do it, you're going to make a knot before you could do anything else. So here you have a contemporary example of our Mordechai and our Rosh. Tircha yisera, which shows that it's broken, and once you do it, there's a chashash shema yiksha. Question that is not as easy as it seems. You bought a new belt and you want to put the new belt onto your pants on Shabbos. Is it mutter? Well, let's be more aggressive. You bought a new suit and a new belt, but Friday night it was raining, so you're wearing your old suit. Shabbos morning you want to put a new belt into your pants. This is charati b'chadati. Is it mutter on Shabbos? So to us it sounds funny, but someone asked Mar Rutenberg in the Tfus Prague, Simon Samachei, this shaila. And the shaila asked, L'chari the Gemara asks, because the Gemara says, Atiki, old is mutter, and Charati is asa, and this is new. So the Rosh didn't say, leave me alone, you have OCD. The Rosh addressed the question, and the Rosh is a yisoid for the rest of our sugya. So I'll have to read the lashon of the Rosh. I forgot to come the Rosh of Mar Rutenberg, I'm saying. I forgot to come a hosam hanimil batiki avacharati loy. Taka the Gemara speaks about old or new stuffing. Hainu mishum da'ovet keli. When you end up putting stuffing into a pillowcase, you're making a pillowcase. Aval hacha, by the case of the new belt, the loy mevatale, you're not keeping it there. V'asi lahachnasu lahaitzi tadir. You put it in a belt and take out the belt for a different pair of pants. Pshita deshari afilu b'chadati. Now, the Mar Rutenberg is a Rishon, and they've talked very briefly, but here he's talking a lot. And he's saying, come out three svaras. First of all, the issa is ovid keli. You're not making a keli. Why not? Because you don't keep it there. You take it out when you wear it during the week. And also, asi lahachas lahaitzi tadir. But he says emphatically, it's mutter even a new belt. Now, presumably he's talking about a new belt, but l'chayr, even a new pair of pants, no difference. You're not making anything. Now, what's he really saying? Very pashut. The fact is, you're not fixing it. Just like if you put a red shoelace in your shoe, you take it out after Shabbos, you're not fixing it. You're putting belt into pants, you're taking it out. You wear it many different ways. But there's probably more of an avana to the Mar Rutenberg's yisoid. A shoe without a lace is broken. A pillowcase without stuffing is broken. Pants without a belt is not broken. So you can't say tikkun mana if there's nothing broken. It's a very convenient accessory to your pants, but it's not broken, you're not fixing. Now, why do I stress that? Because let's say you have pants that are very big and you can't wear them without a belt. So you're going to keep the belt there. But again, that second svara, it's not pshat that the pants are broken. For the person that fits in these pants, it's perfect. So you can't say it's broken. Maybe for you it's unwearable. But what he's saying is a very lumbashi yisoid, that at the end of the day, when I put stuffing into a pillowcase, I'm making a keli. You need 2 parts to make a keli. Shoelace and the shoe is 1 keli with 2 parts. Pants is 1 keli, belt is a different keli. It might help, but you're not making into a new keli. And that's why, even though both are new, or bayed, even if you can't wear it because they're very wide, lamaisa, you're not making a new keli. You're using pants with a very convenient accessory. You know what it's like? Cuffling shirts. Now, most people will not wear cuffling shirts without a cuffling. So are you going to tell me you put in a cuffling into a shirt, you're making a keli? So the answer is, well, maybe you can't wear it without it, but you don't keep it there. That's the way you wear it. You take it out as soon as you want to wash the shirt. So we have 2 svaras that we could really play around with. Number 1, you don't keep it there. And number 2, it's not broken. Now let me add b'yesa bia or b'yesa gishmak. The Rav and Sif Hey, Mr. Brewer, also quotes from a Magen Avram, who speaks about the olden day pants. But they were not like ours, that a basic fit, and you had a belt to make it more comfortable. Pardon me the mashal, but the way the Rav explains it, that the pants they had like a drawstring, like we'll have it on a garbage can, and without the string, the pants couldn't be worn. Not pshat that, yes, some pajamas, but not pshat like it's a pair of pants that are pretty good. It was unwearable without a drawstring, and with it, it was very, very comfortable. So the Rav says in the same Sif Hey, a belt and the pants are perfectly mutter. The string from the pants, that is avid money, is asim midaraisa. What's the cheshbon? Pashit. Because those type of wide, very baggy pants cannot be worn without the string. So without a string, it's not pants. Hashta avid leimana. You're not going to say, I'm wearing pants with a drawstring. I'm wearing pants, that's one. It's one chefza. Pants with a drawstring. Without it, it's not pants. But regular trousers is a perfect pair of pants. So many people don't wear a belt. So it's 2 items. That's why it's not awesome. So this is basically why the Marmukimberg Yisoid has a lot of lamaisa to it. Even if you can't wear it because it's just too wide on you, but you're not making it into a new keli called a shoe or called a pillow. Why do I stress this? Because lamaisa, it's not so hard to find that there might be a case of inserting a belt into wide holes as us. I'll give you a good example. A person buys a tishbekisha, for example. I don't know how it comes, but let's say it comes with the bekisha, and there's a belt that comes separately. And I imagine each one is different. So if you have the belt that you have for this one, you can't wear for your weekday pants, so you can wear for anything because it's different. So says the Shmir HaShabbos in Tezvav Samach Vav, he doesn't say about bekisha particularly, he's talking about even a woman's clothing. But a belt that only fits this clothing and was never in before Shabbos, so putting the belt into the clothing on Shabbos, if it's a unique color or design that's uniquely suited for this type of beged, that is avad leimana. Wait a minute, it goes right in as no chashash of kosher, that you missed the point. That's only when you have to replace it. Here, if you didn't do it before Shabbos, you're putting it for the first time, hashta avad leimana. So here you see it that putting a belt could be us. Just our pants and our belts are generally mutter. Now, let me say the same case. A person that bought a tishbek and he put the belt in before Shabbos. The first Shabbos, someone asked him by mincha, I need a gartel. I forgot to bring a gartel. Now, this fellow with the new tishbeksha is makbet to wear a gartel, not just a belt of his tishbeksha. But he said, let me get a chesed. He takes off his tishbeksha belt, gives it to his friend who's happy with that, and shalom al Yisrael. Can he put it back after mincha? That's perfectly fine. Why? Because he made it before Shabbos, so he's not making anything. So that's why it's mutter, especially goes in, and there's no chashash of tying. Now, Lamaisa, the suspenders, says Iktsois HaShulchan and Kuf Mem Vav Dal, Shmir Shabbos and Sif Samach Vav quotes it also. Suspenders are basically the same like a regular belt. Now today they're more fancy with buttons, with ganze meises, but at the end of the day, no one's going to say, I made a pair of pants. It's an accessory, you change it, so you have both svaras. Someone told his child before Shabbos, I washed your linen, make sure you put the blanket cover back on top onto the blanket. The child forgot, on Shabbos must know, make your blanket. No, I can't. Hashta ovid leimana. You can't put shoelace in shoe, you can't put a blanket into a blanket cover. So he has to find a better excuse for his laziness. Because this is not like you're making a keli. A blanket is perfectly functional as it is. This is an accessory. The B'tzeila Chachman, Chelik Dalet, Tzad Gimel says, Beferish, this is okay. This is not making anything. This is just using an accessory. Now today they have the different names, shirt collar, shirt stiffener, shirt stay, I think it's called. Bekitza, on the collar, there's a little either piece of plastic or a piece of metal. And the mamish comes, you buy a shirt, there's a little bag that has these shirt stiffeners. So to put that in on Shabbos for the first time, it's interesting. It's much worse than a belt and pants because this is not a zach farzich. It's not something independent. It's not like a belt. Its only function is to go into the shirt. It's bottled to the shirt and it's like one with the shirt. And taka, there are some that are machmir. Rav Moshe in Chelik Aleph Kuv Zayin, he says it's mutter to go out with that on Shabbos. He doesn't address putting it in on Shabbos. But it's taka mutter on Shabbos because it's part of the malbush. But is it mutter to put it in if you didn't put it in ever? It's a new shirt with a new shirt stay. I can hear those that are machmir. However, my only point is, and this is important for the next few shilas, here we come to an interesting scenario. Because a shirt without the stay is not broken. If it's not broken, you can't fix it. In other words, till now, the shoe without the laces is taka broken. A pillowcase without feathers is garnished with nisht. But this is not broken. So you have to really, decide, is it a haisafa chashuva that might be makiv patish? Is it just a addition that's not making a keli, then it wouldn't be shaykh ovid leiman. I'll give you another example, okay? Someone bought a hat, and for some reason he didn't fit it right, and it comes down almost on the top of his eyes. So there's a simple eitzah, and that is you take some paper, something put into the lining of the hat, and then it's a better fit. Can he put the lining into his hat on Shabbos and make it a better fit? So assuming that he can't wear it without this, maybe hashta avid leimana. And taka, that makes sense. You're making into a wearable hat. Well, very good. So that's what I wanted to say. That here is the same concept. For someone that's a size 7 and an 8, it's a perfect fit. You're a size 6 and a half. Why'd you buy 7 and an 8? So it's not broken. It's right for the right person. So if it's not broken, you can't fix it. Subjectively, for him, it's not the right fit. So this I can understand why some are takamekel, even if you put it in for the first time. It's a hat that's wearable. Shoes that have no laces are not wearable to anybody. The olden day trousers that without the string were not wearable are unwearable to everybody. But this is missing nothing in the hat itself. So certainly if someone could do it before Shabbos, it's better, but b'shas hatchak, we could be mekel, as it's not really, you're not making a hat. The same shaila, with the same idea, maybe this is a little easier, is that people put things in their shoes, a pad or an insole. So really the shoe is definitely not broken. It just makes it more comfortable, keeps it a little warmer. Maybe it does good for his foot, but I'm not going to say the shoe is broken. So that the Paiskim say, putting in these things before on Shabbos is not repairing the shoe. It's a convenience for the foot itself, like wearing an extra pair of socks. No one will say it's tikkun mana of the shoe. A fascinating question is, again, at this time of the year, people have coats that they wear approximately, I would say, 8 months a year. 4 months a year they wear a coat without a lining, Sukkot time, Pesach time, and when it's really winter, they have the coat with a lining. So the question is now, let's say it's getting winter, you're going to put in the lining of the coat, zipper it in, and it's going to be there for at least 4 months. So the question is, are you allowed to do that on Shabbos or Yom Tiv? Says the Chelkas Yaakov in Archaim Kuf Chav Gimel, says this is mamish our sugya. Loi mi boy pashit, if you put in a new lining into a coat that never was there, hashta avadei mana. But even if you put the lining that you used last year, but a svara is that a summer coat is one type of coat, and now pan chadash is balakan, you're creating a winter coat. You're creating a winter coat, that is tikkun mana. In other words, he's saying that that this is a new creation called a winter coat. He says, lamaisa, it's not new. So Yitaka says, I told you earlier, the bayis chadash or isha chadasha, so more in Saif Daf Mem, does not mean new. It means new to him. So he feels that a winter coat and a summer coat are two different chfeitzim, and you're making a winter coat. Now the truth is, again, this is hard to accept because no one will say that a spring coat during the winter is muktzah. It's not a coat. For some people, you wear a sweater, I'll wear the coat. Some people are always hot. They're opening the windows in the coldest weather in shul. They love this coat. This is great, You can't say it's broken during the winter. If it's not broken, you can't fix it. And the emes is, I couldn't find anybody that directly disagrees with the Chalkis Yaakov, but I did see the B'Teil HaChochm and Gimel Tzadik Beis, the Shmir Shabbos and Tezvav Ayin Ches, the Mari Shteif, or Ben Shteif and Simon Tezvav, all discussed the lining because of a different question. Is it taifa? And of course they say it's not, but no one even considers putting it in al tikkun mana. Apparently the svara is it's not broken. If it's not broken, ikka chasim and aseifa, and it's not shaykh to be tikkun mana on a non-broken coat. Now lamaisa, a person should be careful. Lamaisa, some call it the tikkun mana, and some are choishes for taifa. Put it in before Shabbos, but it's certainly b'makom tzorich avada that it could be mekel lechatchila because it's svara. It's not a broken coat. How about the next question? A person gave his talus to be cleaned, and he forgot to reattach the atara to his talus. Snap it on with snaps. Or a more serious shaila, a chassan got a atara from a shver, and he forgot to put the atara on before Shabbos. There's a question of shalom bayis and worse. Can he snap it on for the first time? It was never done before on Shabbos. So Gaz Nidbu and Chelik Zayim Memhei feels that is considered hashta avulei mana. You're making a keli, you're making a atara to the talus. But again, based on what we said earlier, a talus without a atara is not broken. I mean, many people wear a talus without an atara. And that I saw in the Melech HaShabbos, Michael Stern's eingesund in Amid Reish Yud Zayin, he says it's not broken. Even a new atara is mutter. But I want to say the Binyan Shabbos, I mentioned earlier, Amid Kuf Nun Vav, that he says the yisoid of Tikkun Mana is a Safa Chashuva. He says, L'shit Tasi, that's why a atara on a new atara on a new talus would be Tikkun Mana. Of course, it's wearable as it is. But then again, that's the whole Makapad, it's the finishing touches. He says, if you took it off for the cleaners and you're putting it back, it's the same atara, the same talus, that's okay. But a brand new atara to a brand new talus, that's his consideration, that's like a tikkun mana isaf chashuv. But listen to the next group of questions. Again, you see the nitzchis of our Torah, inflating an item on Shabbos, inflating a balloon, a ball, a tire for a child that's allowed to ride his three-wheel or whatever it might be, or the Pais can discuss, you don't see this today, but it was very common, people that had certain conditions, they had to have inflatable mattresses or inflatable chairs. It was more comfortable for their particular medical condition. Bekitza, to add air to blow up a keli, ball, balloon, mattress, etc. So you're probably wondering, what does that have to do with our sugya? It has everything to do with our sugya. Let's think. Just like you can't put muchin into a pillowcase. You're making a pillow. Why is it any different adding air to an inflatable ball and making a ball? And that's why it's pashut l'chayra, blowing up an item, a new item, is making a ball. But wait, maybe even if you take an old ball that the air went out, but you're adding new air. Like the Rabbi, you can add a new shoelace to an old shoe. L'chayra, blowing up any item, whether it's new or old, should be a malacha of tikkun mana. And indeed, the Chalkas Yaakov and Simon Kuf Samach Zayin, he says this shaila, his lashon is Gemara Arucha, it's a Pharisee Gemara in Shabbos Memches, tikkun mana, mali haisafas muchin, mali haisafas avir. You're making a fully functional keli. The ball was used. This is the El Yerabba, that no difference if it's new or old. The ikki is you're putting in new stuffing. In the next shaila, someone asked him, but why is it different than the Rosh, than the Marmrutenberg of a belt? So this I don't understand the kasha at all, because a belt is muta because the pants are not broken. But the emes is an inflatable ball that has no air is broken. So lishyitasoi, I could understand that blowing up any item, whether it's an old or new item, is mamish. He calls it taka, and his lashon is oisekeli va'asam in hatayra. The Minchas Yitzchak in Vav Lamed also is machmir. Blowing up any item is tikkun mana. However, Reb Shlomo Zalman in Minchas Shlomo Yud Aleph Sif Katan Hey, and you see a little more of a hezbah in Shmir Shabbos Tezayin Chav Beis, he says a chiddush, but I'm just going to tell you what he says. He says, if the ball was used before, you're allowed to put in new air, because all the avir in the world is one avir. In other words, the avir in Borough Park, Lakewood, Monsey, Shleim, we're all on the same page. The avir of the whole world is one. That's what he said. I don't understand exactly what he means, but that's what he says. He says, avir of oilam chashiv davar echad, ve'ein zeh doima lemucham. That's in the Shmir Shabbos, in the new print, Tezayin ha'or chav beis. Lamaisa, Shlomo Zalman in a few places in Shmir Shabbos, Tezvav, Peites, Tezayin, Zayin, Lamadad, Chav Daled, is matit to blow up items, because the old item that is, because the air is all one. Okay. Now, Lamaisa, this is hard to understand, but what's probably more easy to understand is the Petzela Chochman Chelik Dalet Tzadik Beis, and he says the heta of inflating an item is based on the Marmrutenberg of a belt. Now, where's he coming from? So I'm not sure why, but he was talking specifically, and I stress, that they used to fill up this mattress for the chayla every day, every night. The next day they deflated it, and they refilled it every night when he went to sleep on this mattress. Since every day you fill it and empty it, it's mamish the case, Marmrutenberg, that it's osi lahoitzi lahachnis tadir. Okay, if that's the Metzias Echrashti. But it's clear that if you blow it up, like you blow up a football for a child and he plays with it until it busts, that's awesome, because you're making a ball. But one thing I will say, what he says also, beferish, let's say you fill it up at night and it's a big tircha. It's still mutter. Because the only reason why tircha is asa is the avad leimana. But you're not making a mana because you're going to empty it out the next morning. So vivait, you're going to empty it out, it's mutter and across the board. This is what he wants to say. So what I want to highlight is, no one's saying it's across the board, heck, inflating is mutter. Inflating something that you empty on a regular basis is mutter. Something to fill up a football that you play with, or basketball, whatever it is that you keep, avad is us. That the Machzor Yo and Simon Samach Tes, Sif Katan Beis also stresses. What I should also mention, that when we're talking about, let's say, a ball that you fill up and empty, you have to be careful that there's no chashash, you might tie it. Typically these beach balls the children play with has like a built-in stopper, whatever the right word is, that you just push it in and it stays, so there's no chashash of kshira. Why do I stress that? Because now we understand why blowing up a balloon is a problem. Because typically when you make the balloon, you make a knot, b'roish chevel. That's kshira deraisa. That's a keshel kayam. I'm going to be careful and only use a rubber band, but that's the yisai that we saw from the Rishonim, the chashash kshira is us. Interesting question. With someone has a dining room table, he has an interesting family, and after the Suda they play ping pong, so they want to attach, I've heard this other once, they snap on like a ping pong net onto the dining room table. So that's mutter l'maisa. I'm not saying it's very Shabbos-dik, but it's mutter because it's not staying, you're taking it off, it's no real kshira, it's just snapping it in, and that's okay. Le'idach gisa, a wheel of a stroller that fell off, and you have to get it works hard to get it back on, that would be tikkun mana. Because you're fixing it, it's broken. 3-wheel stroller doesn't work too well. Belt and a buckle. Today they have a leather belt, the buckle. So to reattach that is basically not much of a job. You just basically wedge it in and put the tooth down, whatever like it has a connection to it. But it's not like you're screwing something in. And the Pais can say that basically it's not really broken, and especially if it loosens constantly, so it's not broken, you're not fixing it. So that's an easy tikkun that really has a belt that was made. If you bought the belt and you forgot to assemble it for the first time, that's tikkun mana. Another mashal, a picture frame, not the ones you have on the wall, which some say are muktzah. You have it on the break front, and the children play with it, and the backing fell out from the frame, so you want to put it back together. That's a 2-piece connection. It's not hard, there's no string, there's no tying, and you're not making a money. It was made before Shabbos, so that would be perfectly mutter to put it back. A question of a dessert cup, a fruit cup, that has 2 pieces. It has the cup and it has the stem, and you push it in, and you have a dessert cup. So this is a real candidate for Makeh B'Patish. Don't forget. Because this was never a keli, and you're making a keli. There's no big tircha, there's no chashash yikshar, but hashta ovid leimana, even anacha ba'al mizas. So someone told me he has an idea. He has a big box of them. He takes them out before Shabbos, takes the stem and the cup and puts them all together and takes it apart. I said, why do you do that? He said, well, we can't fit them all into the box if they're made. So he takes them all, makes them, puts them apart, then he wants to make them again on Shabbos. I said, unless you have Ruach HaKodesh, it's not going to work. Because you're going to have to find the right shidduch you made Erev Shabbos, the same bottom to the same top, so it's not advisable. If you do it, you could replace it, but L'didan, that's not an idea. A very intriguing question. Till today, till this week, I was pretty comfortable. Now I'm reconsidering, is for those that use floating wicks for Neiris Yom Tiv, Shabbos, of course, you make it before Shabbos. For those that like with floating wicks on Yom Tiv, the question is taking a floating wick. I brought one so you should see and appreciate it, and inserting it into the round cork on Yom Tiv. So you have to realize, I do have the cork, that this sounds like a non-issue. What are you doing? I'm just sticking something in. And you might even argue that the wick was made before, and the cork was made before. What's the shaila? And that's taka why the truth is most poskim are mekel. You're not making any, you're not creating anything. However, I must tell you, I must have lost the wick. I don't know why. Okay, good, we'll use this, the cork. The problem is very basically that the wick is not functional as it is. You can't stand it up, you can't lay it down. The wick is not functional. It only works together with the combination of the cork that keeps it floating. And that's why in the Sefer Hilchas Mayadam Yud Gimel Yud Ches, he says it's worse than a belt and pants, where there the pants are fully made and the belt is fully made. Here the wick is not a wick the way it is. L'maisa Rav Oznen Chelik Tes Kuf Chav Ches is mekel, and he says ve'ein edaim lachnos avnei mechasayim. Why? Because ubavadei loy lenesinas muchen l'torkar. It's not. It's better than the case of the belt, and it's better than the case of the stuffing in the pillow. He doesn't say much of a hezbah. What I think he means to say is that this wick is perfectly made. It might not be able to stand, but you're not, after you put this cylinder, you're not making a wick. The wick is made. The case of a pillowcase, you're making a pillow. The wick is made exactly the way it was made, and it's going to be used that way. It's an accessory to a fully made wick that grada can't be used. Now, he himself adds, Ani ba'atzmi, I'm noyeg to do it before Yom Tiv. But he's very mekel. Rav Shlomo Zalman and Shmir Shabbos, Lamed Gimel Or Mem Tes, he says, just like a salt shaker you're allowed to put together on Shabbos and a baby bottle, a floating wick is also mutter. I think it's the same yisoid, that you're not improving the wick in any way. And to me, with the biggest chap, the Shevet HaKosi, Chelik Daled Kuf Mem Daled, he says the fact that you only use the wick once, so makes it more than Asi Lahaiti Lahachnis. It's only used once. So you can't call it a keli, only used once. Now, Lamaisa, again, I think the Ha'ara is a good Ha'ara. Lamaisa, the Paiskim I told you, Rav Vozna, the Shevet HaKosi, Emek Tshuva, Rav Chaskulrot, and Chelik Zayin, Lamed Gimel, Rabbi Yashiv are all Mekel, and the Vel Taka is Mekel, but we have to try to understand what's Taka the Tzad Lahakol. It has to do something of the fact that the wick is not improved when you add up the cork. The cork is just a way of servicing the wick, but the wick is fully made. One thing I will say, if you have a cork like this and the hole wasn't punched out, like it sometimes happens, to punch out the hole would be a real tikkun mana. Another beautiful shaila, which really hope to be a share for itself, but I'm going to very be makatza, is the question of a ruchnis dikatikkun on Shabbos. So one thing is clear, hafrashas chala on Shabbos, the mitzvah of chala is asa. Hafrashas trumas ha'maiser is on Shabbos or Yom Tov is asa. Why? Because before you make hafrasha, it's asa to eat it, and now you've been masakin it. Even though it's not a physical tikkun, but for an elachayid, this food is inedible as it is. It's a very, very real tikkun. Another halacha, also in Paiskim, is a tray for keli now at a kasha on Shabbos or Yom Tov. Why? Again, b'cheftza, it's not usable. Nothing physically wrong with it, but for us, that's worse than a physical a problem. So kashering a keli that's treif on Shabbos is awesome. Mr. Bur and Shincha of Gimel Lamed Zayin quotes from Sadeshen, Ein lecha tikkun gadol mizeh. With ruchis the eyes, we see a terrible problem. Now consider the next question. Someone has a situation that there's no din of ein mevatlan islach atchila. Lamashal, there's fish and meat mixed up, but there's not enough shishim to be materit. So the halacha is you're allowed to add more meat, lamashal, to make the fish batal b'shishim. But this is not an issa, this is just sakana. So if you could dilute the sakana, you're allowed to do it during the week. So during the week, there's no problem of doing that. On Shabbos, it's asa. Because at the end of the day, you're being machshir something for achila. How about the next question? Someone has a wine that someone else just used for kiddush, and he needs the wine, there's not enough wine. But he can't use yayin pagum. So he wants to add, to be mesakin the yayin pagum by adding non-pagum wine into that wine. So you say it, I'm being mesakin the yayin pagum. But that's okay. Because yayin pagum is not awesome. It's mutter for non-kiddush purposes. So even though you're being mesakin, it's for kiddush only, but it's not a real psul. The next question is a beautiful shayla. Can you toivel a non-good toivel to keli on Shabbos or Yom Tov? So pashtus, it's a quote, a tray for keli. And that's the first sheet in Shinchav Gimel Zayin. That the second sheet, you're now to toivel a keli on Shabbos or Yom Tov. But the first sheet in the Shulchan Aruch is mutter lahatful kli chadash. Why isn't tikkun? The teretz the Paiskim say is that it's not really a tray for keli. But if you cook a cholent in a non-good toivel to keli, the food is still mutter. So it's not bad enough, and therefore there's no tikkun. It's something like yayin pagum. I mean, it's a little worse, but it's still not bechefza asa. But this leads us to Achrein Chav and Yad Yoma. We're going to be the first one that has a shir on Erev Pesach al B'Shabbos. We're getting a head start. Because for those that have dentures, there's an unavoidable problem on Erev Pesach al B'Shabbos. You have to eat 2 sudis with chametz, or 3 sudis. Then you have to kasher the dentures and go into Pesach. So on a regular Erev Pesach, you could kasher an Erev Pesach. But at Pesach al B'Shabbos, you have to do the impossible. Eat 3 sudis, and then kasher it on Shabbos, and kashering is awesome. So ha'or in the floor. Zokta min chashloim mit tinyana simen samach, sif katan lamid, dvar masukim midvash. Avad, you can't kasher on Shabbos or Yom Tov if it's treif. But guess what? Erev Pesach, before this man is achilas chametz, it's not treif. It's not chametz. I mean, chametz is mutter. He says, you're not allowed to wind the watch, even though the watch is going. It's not yet broken. Teretz says, but at least you're creating energy now in the watch for later. But here there's nothing happening now. So it's not a tikkun and it's mutter. I couldn't talk to you all. Okay.
Moedik. Machaya. Mamisha Machaya. B'Shem Egen Shir Torah, I'd like to thank Rabbi Smith for the wonderful shir. Rabbi said this Shabbos, the Besmedrish had a special appeal. They don't make appeals usually in Shul the Shabbos, but the Stolner Rebbe asked that the Olim should really help out to this Inyan, and we're asking everybody to take it very seriously. Next week is coming Chanukah. Everybody knows what means, what hardship we have with the Nishamas, the Ner Hashem Nishmas Odom, lighting so many thousands of boys and girls that are out on the streets and trying to makarv them Yiddishkeit. The Yid Netz Yisrael called Rav Moshe Peleg. He has a moiset called Shirashim. He does not have time to raise money. He's running around to save Yiddish kinderlach, boys and girls, from heimische Stiebe, Rosh Hashivas Eineklach, that never fell out of the cracks and had tremendous initiations, and there's nobody to care for them. He makes schools for them, programs for them. He puts them in dormitories. They should have where to stay and to save their neshamas. Or Rosh Hashiva writes here about his anicle. You can see it outside, all on the brochure. Shkoyach to Moshe Peleg, who saved my anicle, brought him back to Yiddishkeit. We're asking everybody. Nobody knows what's going to be with his kids in his aniklach. We all need tzchusim to light up Yiddish and Neshamas, Yiddish kinder, the Ebeshev Rachmanas, that we should all have good adoyres. Give now as much as you can. Give $100, $180, give even $1,000. To have a schus that the Ebeshev Rachmanas on us, that we should have good to kinder, good to aniklach. He's our shliach. We should be really doing the job, running around the streets and being mavayish ourselves to go down, all the way down to these boys, to save them, to bring them back in. And he does it for us. And he's Baruch Hashem being very matzliach. He saved many neshamas, boys and girls in Eretz Yisrael. You can take our brochure and see what it is, but please, everybody lamaisa, take a check and write out a check to Shirashim, or give you a credit card that's right outside the shul in the hallway. I guess you have a tremendous chus. In this chus, we should always zoiche to Ner Hashem Nishmas Odam, gute gesinnte Kinder, gute Deures, and a freilich and Chanukah gut gebent Shior. Ab Chanukah Hashem, merot Kodesh Baruch Hu lezaka es Yisrael. Lefikach hier benem Torah mitzvah, shenem ad nechofes man tzidka yagdel Torah v'yadeh. Mincha, the Sikkim is after Mincha. Rabbi said when you go out, please, the manal of the moises is in the hallway, please help him out. Maybe have a